Hello there guys, what is going on? Happy Tuesday, Daniel Childs here. I'm going to be doing another news show. I've asked for some questions on X at SonOfChelsea on my YouTube community page. Going to record that Q&A tomorrow, so please ask your questions if you haven't already. But we've got some decent to big news today regarding Chelsea transfers, a name we spoke about over the weekend. Ironic that the news has come out today regarding Estevao from Palmeiras, and we'll speak about him and the potential of that signing actually happening very soon. Also, striker exits basically from Stamford Bridge, the futures of Romelu Lukaku and Armando Broja being discussed today. So I'm going to give you my thoughts on those. Please do hit the like button. Please hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Got lots of content coming up on the channel before the end of this season. Going to be doing a basically keep, sell or loan on the current squad. We're going to be doing some other tactical things, looking at the evolution of Pochettino's approach over the past week and why it's worked so well. I want to take a deeper dive into that because many people are interested about it, and obviously covering the last 3 Chelsea games, where after last night, Man United absolutely getting drenched in the London rain and also getting battered by Palace 4-0, Chelsea have a really good chance now of qualifying for Europe. So hopefully a positive end to the season. Before we do get into that, I want to say a massive thank you to the guys at Alloy Collectors who have partnered up with me, and I'm glad to give you a 15% discount on their metal Chelsea home shirt, which I've been promoting recently, and we're doing a giveaway for it. Again, you can enter the giveaway. It's all around Thiago Silva. In the comments below, if you want to win one of these metal Chelsea home stainless steel shirts, great collectible to have. You can put in the comments below your favourite Thiago Silva moment, and I will be giving you the winner before the Bournemouth game. You can use my discount code right now, SonOfChelsea, to get 15% off at checkout. Let's start off with the news today from Liam Toomey from The Athletic regarding Estevao, a player who has been linked to Chelsea since January, a player we spoke about over the weekend, and reports came before the Spurs game, I believe, out of Brazil. But then when you hear the likes of The Athletic and Liam Toomey talking about it, there is some more validity to it on the Chelsea side. And this was the report today. Chelsea are in talks to sign Brazil teenager Estevao from Palmeiras. Chelsea are confident of completing the transfer, which would see Estevao move to Chelsea after turning 18 in April of 2025. Palmeiras are prepared to accept an initial fixed amount of around 30 million euros plus a variable fee of performance-based add-ons. His Palmeiras contract runs until 2026. Estevao, a little bit about the player here, nicknamed Messinho in his native Brazil, made his first team debut for Palmeiras last season, playing alongside Madrid-bound Endrick. The teenager has scored once in 5 Serie A appearances this season. He also scored 3 and assisted 3 at the Under-17 World Cup last year, where Brazil reached the quarterfinals. Chelsea have a scout based in Brazil who has followed the winger closely, while other club reps have travelled to Brazil to watch him play and lay the groundwork. I want to give some shout out to the Copper Club here, who had some good Chelsea people on to discuss this and a lot more insight on the player, because those who watch him pretty frequently believe he's the next big thing. I know we hear that a lot now, so it doesn't have that much weight anymore, unfortunately, but given some of the praise and expectation for this young player, it is quite staggering. I mean, Ben Mattison here, a player who watches him regularly too, reporting today and giving his thoughts that all the big clubs want him. Same level of talent to early Santos Neymar, better prospect than Endrick, nicknamed Messinho. Estevao Willian is a superstar, a future Ballon d'Or winner. What this boy can do is special, and he's destined for the top. Jessica Frota, who I've referenced a lot here, Brazilian Chelsea fan, great account, great opinions, obviously knows a lot about Brazilian football and knows a lot about this player. And I've given my concerns about him, and more so on the Chelsea side than actually the player side. But she responded today just to give some more context and detail over the level of player she thinks Chelsea are potentially getting here. She says, I understand the concern, but the chances of someone with that kind of talent coming up are slim. As you know, I'm a huge Andre Santos fan, but there's no one that we have targeted that's even close to the level of talent of Estevao and Kendry Paes. My point that I made on Saturday was just about stockpiling and just about buying a lot of left-footed right wingers. That was the joke that Liam Toomey made when he shared that news earlier, that, you know, how many more basically are we going to get? How many left-footed right wingers does it take to change a light bulb at Chelsea Football Club? I think that's the big question, because you look for the squad: Noni Manuake, Cole Palmer, On loan, you've got Omari Hutchinson, of course, Angelo, who's been at Strasbourg. You've got Kendry Paez coming in next summer. And now potentially you've also got Estevao Willian. I do think putting this kind of pressure on young players could potentially be unhealthy. I'm not looking at Kendry Paez, despite of how excited people are with him and going to put the world on his shoulders when he arrives. He's this massive saviour. Because I just think that's unfair. And I'd like to think that internally at the club, they're trying not to put him in that position because, I mean, you could argue with the Mudryk signing, for instance. I know a not significantly older, but older player is the way they presented Mykhailo Mudryk kind of made him out to be this massive, massive superstar. And maybe he's been burdened by that pressure from the off, and maybe why we've seen the struggles at Stamford Bridge. And I just hope it isn't the same case with these type of players. And when you hear stuff like that, I mean, I do take it with a grain of salt because it feels like every 3 or 4 months, especially, you hear this kind of hype around a player. But, I'll take Jessica Frotto, I'll take other people's, opinions at their word because I know they have, good knowledge on the game, especially in Brazil. And, maybe, just maybe, Chelsea are uncovering some real gems here with Paez, who, despite being very young, is playing at a senior level and doing it quite successfully. I think the big, huge question is, what Chelsea do these players walk into next summer? I mean, that's the huge question. Are they walking in to a Mauricio Pochettino Chelsea? Are they walking into it coached by someone else? Are they walking into a club who have Champions League football again? So a lot can change between now and then. I think that in terms of this, for me, it's kind of at the back of my mind. I would say, though, if you are investing in Paez and now Messinho, as he's called, Estevao Willian, and you've got all these players in a similar area, really you shouldn't be buying in that area again for a while now, because these are young players. And we speak a lot about pathways when I'm talking about, young players from the academy, but it's also the players you buy, especially if you buy from a younger age. I think this was the issue we had when we bought in a quick succession the likes of Christian Pulisic. We signed up Hudson-Odoi to a long contract, and then we bought Timo Werner. And, if you buy players in a similar age bracket, in a similar area of the pitch where they all require minutes, the chances of players stalling, I think, increases. I think you need a nice balance within the squad of maybe some older players coming to the end of their career and younger players wanting to make their way into it, and players in their prime, which is still a concern of mine, especially when you're kind of blocking it up with so many young players who all need minutes. And maybe, just maybe, the likes of Paez and Estevao will go on loan, or are they too good to go on loan? That's another question. But then what does that mean for the rest of the squad currently? So people are excited. I'm always going to be a little bit more, not cynical on the player, but just a little bit more skeptical, because we know the struggles of Chelsea, we know the pressure and the adaptation, and just what the club's going to look like is very hard for me to gauge right now. I'd like to think it's going to be a much healthier and positive environment. And you always hope. You think back to that Neymar situation years ago where Chelsea could have signed him from Santos and what could have been. Hopefully, we are uncovering some great talent. Because if he is, I want to make this abundantly clear, if he is, there's going to be no complaints from me. There's going to be no complaints from anyone. Like, if he turns out to be what people think he is, and Chelsea sign him for an all right fee, and he turns out to be a wonder kid, and he comes in and sets the world alight in the Premier League, happy days. But I don't think, I'm being silly here when I do raise at least just realistic concerns or just questions. I want to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Are you a lot more excited about this potential signing than I am? Let me know. So let's get into the other stuff today. So Fabrizio Romano breaking both of these stories that Chelsea are open to selling Lukaku in the summer for a value of exit clause negotiated last summer, which is around 38 million. A clause part of a private agreement with Lukaku's agents and open to any club, not only Roma. We kind of knew that Lukaku was more likely percentage-wise to be exiting Stamford Bridge permanently than remaining. I think there was still some discussion over just, squad building and whether actually Chelsea could do with keeping Lukaku, sticking with Nicholas Jackson and then having that more experienced head in the background. I always did think that was more of kind of a nice theory discussion. When you actually bring in the reality of Lukaku, his history, his reputation amongst Chelsea fans, and a lot of bad blood, I'm sure, between both parties in recent years, it was always it was going to be a massive ask for Lukaku to return in that situation to be healthy. Even though I still do rate the player, I still do think he would provide something to the current first team squad. Even if that was 10 to 15 goals a season, I think that would still be quite valuable. But then again, 38 million with the talk of Chelsea needing to raise funds from somewhere, and I don't want those funds coming from Conor Gallagher or Trevor Chalobah or like Cole Palmer. I want them coming from players that we don't see as in our long-term future, in our present future as well, as like key to the first team. I think Lukaku makes sense and probably the best move for him. We did speak about those rumours of an Osimhen deal being included with him going to Napoli, Osimhen going the other way. I still think that's a little bit fanciful. You don't see swap deals like that very often. The other story that Romano spoke about, and this was like an exclusive, Armando Broja planning to part ways this summer with Chelsea. Permanent transfer expected as soon as he returns from Fulham loan. Albanian #1 striker on the list of several clubs in Europe and Premier League. Looking at him as main option. This is not a surprise. It really isn't. Spoiler alert for my keep buy or keep sell loan list. If I'm going to include Broja, I would be selling him. I think for the betterment of the player's career, it's just been a really disappointing year for him personally. It started actually quite well. If you remember, he returned from injury. He scored, I believe, against Fulham, who would eventually go to on loan. And it looked like Broja was going to play an all right part in Chelsea's season. And of course, it changed during the January window. Chelsea loaned not only him, but also David Dacha Fofana out to Premier League clubs. Fofana has had a much better time of it at Burnley. Armando Broja, I think, has been a victim to circumstance with Muniz, very much coming to form and becoming a revelation for Fulham in the second half of the season. So he's been behind him. And I think for Broja, it's just about getting that fresh start now. And he's probably looking at, I've always felt with Broja, and this was as far back as, say, the summer of 2022, even before then when he was at Southampton, that, is he looking at the current situation and thinking to himself, am I ever going to be treated as kind of the first choice here? Is it the best option for me to move elsewhere to kind of progress my career? And that was very realistic heading into that summer of 2022 when the new ownership came in. That didn't happen that summer. He played a little bit under Graham Potter and then he got injured. And then, of course, waited for this season. He's been on loan. It hasn't worked out. And again, where are you getting the money from? You're looking at players like Armando Broja, who probably could command 30 to 40 million. I don't think is ridiculous, even with the struggles on loan. I think Chelsea could still look at it and go, can we get a decent fee for him? And then on top of that, the likes of Lewis Hall, Ian Matson, Kepa Arrizabalaga. I feel like all these players will make up the majority, at least, of Chelsea's early signings in the summer. And I think it's probably the right move for the player, right move for the club. We did have hopes of Diego vibes within him, and I still think there is a player within there. Injuries are just so crippling, aren't they? We've seen this so often. Weirdly, with academy grads, unfortunately, Callum Hudson-Odoi, Ruben Loftus-Cheek, Armando Broja getting similar injuries. And, when you go out the team and that opportunity passes you by potentially, and Nicholas Jackson comes in, and then he kind of becomes that player that I'm sure Broja wanted to become, of being that young, exciting forward who gets the opportunity and maybe makes a position his own. So it doesn't look like it's going to be the case for Broja. I think it's right for Chelsea to get as much money as they can. Broja, if you're going to sell one academy grad this year that's been in and around the first team, I think Broja would be the one if I have to sell one, unfortunately. So I think that's obvious. But those are my thoughts. Going to be doing the Q&A, other content before we build up to the weekend against Nottingham Forest. Follow me across socials. Get involved in that Thiago Silva giveaway in the comments. Thank you so much for tuning in, for watching, listening, and I will see you again very soon. All the best.